There is a room in the lighthouse that Lola never opened in 20 years. It was down there, behind the generators, sealed with an iron door that rust had welded to the frame. Lola walked past it every day to start the emergency generator, every day for 20 years, and she never opened it. She never wanted to know what was inside. She should have opened it on the first day. It would have spared us everything. The confessions, the lies, Roman's blood drying on the floor of the lantern room. It was all there, waiting, on the other side of a door no one wanted to open. But that is how truth works in Galicia. You do not seek it. You bury it. And when the sea digs it up, it is already too late. Saturday night fell over the lighthouse like a sentence. The storm had not eased. We had been trapped for nearly 2 days and the gale kept worsening, as if the Atlantic had decided we did not deserve to leave. The main generator had died in the mid-afternoon. Lola kept the lantern running with the emergency generator, an old contraption that coughed and shuddered like a sick animal, but refused to give up. Just like Lola. The rest of the lighthouse was dark. Candles in the common room. Candles on the staircase. Shadows moving along the walls like something alive. And at the center of that darkness, us. What was left of us? Inns was waiting for me on the second-floor landing. She had the photograph in her hand. The photo of her father with an 8-year-old boy named Hugo. The photo that changed everything. We went up together. Hugo had locked himself in his room after the struggle with Martin. He had been in there for hours. Without speaking. Without moving. But when I knocked on the door, he opened immediately. As if he had been waiting. His eyes were red. Not from crying. From not sleeping. From calculating. Hugo was always calculating, even when the board was collapsing on top of him. Inns held the photograph in front of him. She said nothing. She just held it at the level of his eyes, in the candlelight, and waited. Hugo looked at the photo. And his face did something I had never seen it do. It fell apart. Just for a second. Like a crack in a concrete wall that opens and closes before you can measure it. But I saw it. Inns saw it. I do not know any Sedera, Hugo said. His voice was steady. His jaw was not. My father had another family, said Inns. She said it calmly. With the terrible calm of someone who has had hours to digest the indigestible. An address in Madrid. A child who was not me. You are from that family. You are my brother. Hugo did not move. He did not deny it. He did not defend himself. For the first time since he arrived at the lighthouse, Hugo Ariat did not have an answer prepared. He stood in his doorway, the candle trembling in his hand, and the silence was more eloquent than any confession. Because Hugo knew how to lie with words. But his silence told the truth. While we were upstairs with Hugo, something was happening below. I learned about it later, from Martin. He told me everything that same night, his hands still trembling, his voice the voice of someone who has seen something they cannot stop seeing. Martin and Celia had gone down to the basement. Martin had a bump the size of an egg where Hugo had shoved him against the wall, and Celia was applying ice wrapped in a kitchen cloth. They were sitting beside the generators when Celia noticed it. There is a draft, she said. Martin looked at her without understanding. Celia pointed to the back wall. Behind the generators, half hidden by a metal cabinet full of tools, there was a door. Not the sealed door I had found days earlier, the one with the 6 marks. Another one. A second door no one had seen because the generators blocked it. Martin moved the cabinet. The metal legs screeched against the stone floor like nails on a chalkboard. The door appeared behind it. It was iron, older than the others, with a rusted padlock that broke on the 3rd blow of a wrench. What they found inside took their breath away. An office. Small, windowless, with the stale air of something that has been sealed for decades. A wooden desk, a chair, nautical charts pinned to the walls with tacks that had turned into rust stains. Logbooks stacked in a corner. An ashtray with petrified ash. And on the far wall, on a shelf, an old radio system. A transmitter receiver from the 70s, with cables still connected to an antenna that ran up through a conduit in the wall to the exterior of the lighthouse. The office of the previous keeper. The one who had been there before Lola. The one who retired a year after the shipwreck and never came back. But what made Martin's hands tremble was not the radio, nor the charts, nor the logbooks. It was the tapes. Cassettes. A dozen, perhaps more, arranged in a cardboard box with dates written in pen on the labels. The previous keeper had recorded the maritime communications. Every night, for years, he had turned on the radio, recorded what was said on the sea off Finisterre, and stored the tapes the way someone keeps a diary. And one of those tapes had a date that burned my eyes when Martin showed it to me. November 15th, 20 years ago. They came up to find us. Celia climbed the stairs at a speed improper for her 6 to 7 years and found us in the second-floor hallway, Inns and I facing Hugo, the three of us in a silence you could touch. "Come down," Celia said. Nothing more. 2 syllables. But her face said the rest. We all went down, including Hugo. I do not know why he came. Perhaps because he had stopped resisting. Perhaps because, in some place he did not dare name, he needed to hear what was on those tapes as much as we did. Lola came down last. She did not want to leave the lantern alone. But Celia insisted and Lola relented, as she always did before Celia's quiet authority. The office was too small for 6 people. We crowded around the desk. Martin had found an old cassette player, one of those grey devices with plastic buttons that clicked when you pressed them. He plugged it into a power strip hanging from the emergency generator. He pressed play. Static. An oceanic murmur of interference. White noise that sounded too much like the sea. And then, voices. Fragments. Broken. The maritime frequency from that night, recorded by a man who perhaps knew what was going to happen, or perhaps was simply following his routine. But the tape was there. And the voices were there. The first voice I recognized was my father's. I did not recognize it because I remembered it. I was 18 when he died. His voice had been fading over the years, like a photograph left in the sun, until only a vague impression remained. But when it came through that tape, something inside me broke and rebuilt itself at the same time. It was him. It was a Morrow Duvall. Speaking over the radio from the bridge of the Santa Lucia, at 11:15 at night, with the tone of a man beginning to feel afraid. "Finisterre, this is Santa Lucia. We have lost the lighthouse reference. Repeat, we have no lighthouse signal. Requesting position. Over. Silence. Static. Finisterre, this is Santa Lucia. The lighthouse signal has disappeared. We need urgent position. Heavy seas. Over. More silence. No one answered. Because there was no one. The lighthouse was off and the Finisterre radio did not cover that frequency at night. My father was screaming into the void. Lola covered her mouth with her hands. The sound that came from her was not a sob. It was something more ancient. The sound of a woman who has spent 20 years hearing that voice in her head and who at last hears it outside, real, recorded, impossible to deny. But the tape had not ended. After my father's voice, after the silence that answered his calls, another frequency appeared. Another channel. Another communication the keeper had picked up because his radio swept all bands. A second vessel. Someone was on the water that night. Someone who does not appear in any report, any record, any investigation. A voice that said, with surgical clarity, "Confirmed. The lighthouse is off. Proceed." The voice was young, educated, professional. The voice of someone who is not frightened because he is not in danger. The voice of someone who knows exactly what is going to happen because he organized it. I looked at Hugo. Hugo was white. Not pale. White. The color of lime, of plaster, of bones the sea bleaches when it returns them to the beach. His eyes were fixed on the cassette player as if the machine were going to bite him. Lola looked at him. And she began to cry. Not like before. Now she cried with her eyes open, looking at Hugo, and between the sobs she said something that froze us all. It is you. The voice that called me that night. The voice that told me if I did not turn off the lighthouse, they would kill my son. It is you. Hugo did not respond. He could not. The tape kept turning, the screech of the capstan, the static, the final minutes of the Santa Lucia. And then nothing. Only sea. Martin stopped the tape. The silence that followed was the longest of my life. 6 people in a windowless room, by the light of 2 candles, with 20 years of truth rotting between us like a corpse that has finally risen to the surface. Inns was looking at Hugo. Not with hatred. With something worse. With recognition. She was seeing her father in her brother. The same surname beneath another surname. The same blood. Hugo moved first. It was so fast that none of us reacted. He turned, left the office, and started climbing the lighthouse stairs. The spiral staircase that rose 112 steps from the basement to the lantern room. He took them 2 at a time, with the desperation of a cornered animal. Celia shouted, "Do not let him reach the lantern," but Hugo was not going to the lantern. I ran after him. Martin ran after me. We climbed the stairs in the dark, guided only by the sound of Hugo's footsteps above and by the intermittent sweep of the light beam that came through the narrow windows each time the lantern turned. Light. Darkness. Light. Darkness. Like a crystal heart beating above our heads. Hugo stopped on the 2nd floor. Not at the lantern. At my room. When I reached the landing, my door was open. Hugo was coming out with something in his hands. My folder. The folder that had been stolen from me. The one that had disappeared from under my pillow. 20 years of investigation, of clippings, of photographs, of maps, of testimonies, of sleepless nights documenting the death of 6 men. All in a brown cardboard folder that Hugo held against his chest like a shield. He had taken it. Of course it had been him. He did not look at me. He kept climbing. He passed the lantern, reached the door to the exterior balcony, and opened it. The storm ripped the door from his hands. The wind entered the stairwell like a fist and nearly knocked me to the ground. The rain was horizontal, brutal, and the roar of the sea below was so loud I had to shout for him to hear me. Hugo stepped out onto the balcony. He gripped the railing with one hand. With the other he held my folder over the void. A 30-meter drop to the rocks. 60 meters to the sea. He turned. The wind plastered his hair to his face. The rain ran down his eyes like tears that were not his own. And he shouted, his voice broken by the gale. If anyone takes one more step, 20 years of investigation go into the sea. I stayed in the doorway. Martin behind me. Celia, Inns, and Lola arrived panting at the staircase. 6 people watching a man on the edge of a cliff, with the truth dangling from his fingers. And the wind pulling. And the pages of the folder flapping like the wings of something trying to escape. That is how Saturday ended. With Hugo on the balcony, the storm at its worst, and my entire life hanging over the abyss. But the worst part was not that. The worst came after. The worst came with the lights. The next chapter will be released when we reach 100. 100 people who know what happened in that lighthouse. 100 witnesses. Subscribe. Not for me. For the 6th the sea did not return in time.